the other studio they had where they had more space, which had the issues, there was so much crap all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
And there were like a couple of rooms worth of. If you really like, there's a proton pack over there.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Now, is that Wilt Chamberlain's club from Conan the Destroyer?
I think it might be.
Which one? That one?
No, his was more of a ball.
That's from.
Go for it.
Oh, okay.
That's the new Thor, the hammer that turned into the axe.
All right. Here. Spending a Sunday morning here in Red Bank, New Jersey at the Shared Universe Studios. I'm Rob Akampora. This is the A-Game, as you didn't know by the obnoxious sign behind me, which I love. Happy to have not one but two people here with me. The man in the middle, I know very well from the last time I got to talk with him, because he had so many great stories. It was like, I was looking forward to having him back. There's at least one story we will get into, for sure. Bill Timoney, very talented actor and storyteller.
Hi, Rob. Thank you for having me back.
Oh, no, are you kidding me? Yeah. And a mutual friend of ours, Bob Senkewicz, who is now making his 5th appearance on this podcast.
I'm a pop-up visitor for tonight, that's all.
But you're a 5-timer now.
Yeah, yes.
You're a 5-timer.
Yes.
He's a 5-timer.
Nice.
That it's fewer than my wife claims me having been through, but you know.
It's definitely going to be interesting, guys, for sure. And by the way, if you missed the last episode with Bill, find it on my YouTube channel, because there were so many great stories about Carol Burnett, Julia Roberts, Bradley Whitford. Just the stories go on and on and on. And again, thank you so much for just waxing poetic about all that. So there's some great stuff in there.
I've been sitting on these things for the longest time. I store all of my showbiz anecdotes in the back of my head, so that when I, quote unquote, make it and the market demands a memoir,
Right.
I have all of these stories. And in the last year or two, I've finally realized the market may not be demanding a memoir from me. So I seek outlets which I can share, if I can use the phrase "where which."
Absolutely.
And you are it. So
thank you.
Oh, wait a second. When we worked together in theater, I heard these stories all the time.
I had to practice.
Yes,
See?
you did, and you have
ready.
perfected them. I must say.
Streamline them. What works, what doesn't work. Yeah. No tangents. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, we did our first play together. It was like what, 2004, 2005,
Something like that. Yeah.
And that's one thing that we didn't even bring up the last time. Your stage work. I mean, Broadway was a big part of your life in the 2010 region.
In the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I mean, probably like you guys. You know, I grew up in New Jersey, so I could go see shows.
Right.
I think when we turned 11 or 10, our folks would take us to our first Broadway show.
Right.
My older brother, myself. And then, in high school, you'd start to find your way in and catch shows. But not being a singer-dancer, it was never really on my radar as much as I would love to have done it. So, the last couple of years, I've done there twice, and both of them were big hits. So I'm kind of spoiled now. The next time I'm on stage, I sort of like, how am I not going to be able to have, full houses and all that? It really spoiled me.
Yeah, speaking of spoiling, Network, obviously, I mean, your good friend, Bryan Cranston, wins every award known to man during that run. I mean, it was an incredible performance. And by the way, do we have a still? I mean, give me a photo number 8. It's a black and white still, but it is, there you are.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm I play the director. Oh, I did. The newscast, the Howard Beale newscast.
Right.
And the booth, the control room booth, was on stage, all glass booth, so the audience could see everything that was happening on the other side of the camera. And I mean, rarely did I get out of the booth and go interact with Brian's character, but it did get to happen from time to time. But,
right.
But the cool thing about that was the director chose me to understudy Brian.
Oh, that must have been interesting. So just in case if he ever got sick, you had to take over. Wow.
212 performances. The so-and-so never missed a scene. But the guy's an Irish field ox.
Yeah.
He knows that the audience is coming to see him tackle this big role. Plus, it's the second time on Broadway. His first time on Broadway, we was playing LBJ.
Yeah. Which during that run, he had vocal problems because of the 3-hour beating his voice.
Right.
And even with that, he soldiered through like crazy.
Yeah, and he never missed a performance there either.
Right.
And he won the Tony. So that New York buzz is, can the guy do it again? So there was no way he was going to miss a performance. But all Broadway shows have one day a week They do a full run through of the show with all the tech and all the costumes and everything, but no audience. And it's the understudies playing the roles that they are understudying. So I got to play it once a week. And the final week of our run, we were told for the understudy, if you want to invite people to come see it.
Oh, that's cool. Wow. Very cool.
So I invited my mom, my brother, my cousin, and there was one other person. So right there in the Blasco Theater, my family and one guy who was the dad of one of the other, and that was it. They got to see with the whole tech and everything. So, nobody really got to see what I did, but at least I got to do the role. And if they ever do that show regionally, man, I want to compete for that part. I'd love to play it in front of an audience.
You glow when you talk about stage. So obviously that as much as you like doing film, getting back on the stage, which brings me to the importance of Broadway and how important it is to try to get Broadway back to where it was pre-pandemic. I mean, in your mind, how long do you think it would take?
Oh, I think it's going to be tough this year.
This year, yeah.
I think particularly when it gets colder.
Right.
Because you guys see it in the news, how many people are going down with it and performances missed and performances canceled.
Right.
I think it'll be pretty good. I hope it's good through the summer.
Yeah.
But now you've got tourist season.
Right.
And there are a lot of people who have been less than committed to beating this thing.
Right.
And now the streets are full again, and now the theaters are full again, and then it gets colder in the fall. Yeah, I'm the pessimist.
No, but fingers crossed.
I'm hearing you say you're figuring more next year is when things really start to kick back in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
that's a fair observation.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but God bless them all for trying, and everybody who's committing to it. You go to a lot of the shows fully masked. A lot, unlike. I don't get. I'm sorry if we can go there for just a minute.
Sure.
The mayor of New York City is giving exceptions to ball players because they're famous, and it's like, well, wait a minute. If it's safe,
right. There's got to be a consistency.
Yeah,
I get what you're saying.
That's really unfortunate. And I think Broadway has really embraced that. You've got the Hugh Jackmans and Sarah Jessica Parkers and those people who are out there. They're just being good examples of how let's handle this the best we can.
Well said. Well said. And you may remember this gentleman from back in the day, and I got to do this. Photo number 3, and I found this on a YouTube video, which started to circulate. I got a still of it, obviously, and it was a scene where you're in a club,
right?
And forgive me, I can't remember who the actress was, but I remember the conversation going on, and "Are you into Adam Ant?" came up in the conversation.
That's what's odd about that. In fact, when my wife and I moved up to Manhattan to do network, we were living up in Highlands, and all bunch of our stuff got tossed. And I wasn't home. I wasn't home the day the guys came to empty out the shed. And they grabbed everything, including my tubs of all my children tapes and my commercial tapes. And so all that stuff is gone. And if I wasn't going to hang on to that stuff, who else is, right?
Yeah.
So I think just about the only Alfred Vanderpool clip that's out there on YouTube is this scene. And it's the one scene where Alfred, who is known for being buttoned down and uptight, and the Boys to Men, they dressed Alfred's outfit.
Absolutely. So, in Motown Philly, you watch the video.
Yeah. But in this scene, Alfred decides to be hip, and with Greg and Jenny watching the background, he's lost his glasses, even though he can't see. He's wearing a hip shirt that's unbuttoned.
I was about to say about 4 buttons unbuttoned. Yeah.
But he's still uptight, but he's pretend. So it was fun that I got to play still the guy's, insecurities as he was playing a guy who was very confident and not doing it well. That kind of juicy stuff. Yeah. And that young actress, that was her one day. She was daytime TV's version of a punk rocker.
Right, it's true.
So, still very clean punk rocker. And she was hilarious to work with. Her name is Diana Berry, and she is a very, very talented rock musician. She fronts her own band. She's a singer-guitarist, and she continues. That is what she does even today. So you guys are out there looking for some stuff. She has a very Joan Jett vibe.
Nothing wrong with that.
Maybe a little Sherry Curry, that kind of thing. So I've watched her far too often than I should. to maintain my.
I've told you, Rob, before that he remembers everybody.
Yes, I know. That's the crazy part. But then there are people that remember him, and thanks to Bill, a couple of my guests have come through. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much.
My pleasure. I'll keep bringing people.
I know. And Ming, give me one clip. I'm going to start with Liz Vassy, and she came on literally about 2-3 weeks after Bill had came on, and she did make a comment about Bill. Give us the clip.
I've known Bill since I was a fetus. I met him when I was 16 years old. I was 16 years old in New York City working on All My Children, and he was one of my very first friends there. And I mean, you talk to him. I fell in love with him immediately. My family fell in love with him, and we've been friends through it all. I mean, I adore the guy. So yeah, he's great.
I love how you put that, though. I've known him since I was a fetus.
I mean, my God, yeah, 16 years old. My mom and I moved from Tampa, Florida to New York City so that I could work on the soap. And we lived in an apartment that I swear is probably half the size of whatever room you're sitting in now. Like our beds were head to head. And
oh, jeez.
Yeah, it was crazy culture shock in a good way. We both went we went apeshit for New York. But yeah, Bill was he was great. He was a great way into the city. He was very.
And obviously the friendship continues how many decades later? I mean, that's amazing.
Oh, no, I hate him now. Would that be so awkward? No, we don't speak.
That would be very awkward.
She's so talented.
Oh, my God.
She's so talented. And you know she's writing now.
I know. I mean, I had her on again within the last month or two.
Good.
And the music she's put out is phenomenal. The cover sheet shows were very unique. Mm-hmm. The Radiohead cover's the best thing on the album.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I did not expect her to, but she nailed it. I mean, and it's just... She's got so many facets, but yeah, she's really trying to make this transition, and she's starting to have some success in that writing world. And she just did the album because, pandemic, I had something to do, and it was a creative outlet.
Before All My Children, I think what she did, I mean, as a kid, was musical theater.
Right, I remember her telling me that.
She comes from a very musical theater background. Yeah. And when we became pals, my best buddy in New York was an actor named Perry Stevens, who was the young. You remember Perry?
Yeah.
The tall, good-looking, drink of water Romeo on the soap Loving. Mm-hmm. And Perry and I developed. He was doing nightclubs in Midtown, and he would get like a female soap star to do a couple ballads or duets with him.
Right.
And then he arranged. We started. Well, I would be his intro, and since I had done some stand-up back in the '80s during the stand-up craze, I started writing material for us, and we ended up coming up with like a Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis act. And it got expanded into a show, and Liz was a guest on it several times.
Oh, wow.
You know, she would perform with us. Yeah. Then Liz and I, we would do a duet on Suddenly Seymour.
Oh, God.
I'm not a singer unless I can screw it up, unless I can muck it up.
Character song.
The character song. Thank you.
There you go. Where the voice itself is not as important as the way you portray the song.
Exactly. The sun will come out. Yeah. I can't do the other thing. I dreamed I met a Galilean. No one would come to me for that. But gotta find my, that's what they would come to me for.
I blame it on your height.
Oh my God!
You're not tall enough for those parts.
Not tall enough for any of those parts. And Perry was twice my height.
See,
yeah.
The advantages of being 6 foot something,
Complete. Yeah. So and Liz is a tall drink of water too.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
And I was dating a young gal at the time. Now, the time Liz and I met, when she was 16, I was 30.
Okay.
And I was dating a model in town who had just turned 18. So she had more in common with Liz. So I introduced them, and they became best pals. Oh. And I've got a picture somewhere. Well, no, it's in that tub.
Damn it!
The New York Daily News had a picture. There was a movie that Miramax put out starring Jeff Goldblum called The Tall Guy.
Oh, God.
And it's the movie that introduced Emma Thompson to American audiences.
Okay.
And it's hilarious. American actor is doing a show in London. Mm-hmm. Something goes wrong, and he has to now. And Rowan Atkinson is the star. He fires him, and all these great people are in this thing. The Tall Guy. Well, a buddy of mine was working for Miramax, and they were having a screening at there was a wonderful theater underneath Carnegie Hall.
Right.
And so the screening was there, and Jeff was there, and I brought Liz, and I brought my date, and the paparazzi loved it because Jeff Goldblum noticed these two very attractive
women, of course,
very young, very tall women, and he's whatever he is.
Yeah.
And sure enough, we got photos that got in the Daily News of Liz and my Cal pal just got staring only a little bit up to Jeff, and Jeff was beside himself until he kind of figured out, oh, you're with him, and you're, but,
yeah, well, you know,
but they had their moment with another tall drink of water.
Like I said, I knew we were going to get some great stories today.
Yeah. Someone's got that picture out there somewhere.
Here's one more of your alum, and again, thanks to you, he came on. Min, get the clip ready. Matt Servito, when he came on, was with his writing film partner, Ken Arnold, but he had this to say about All My Children. Take a listen.
It was my first place, and it was such a great group of people, and it kind of spoiled me. I would say, if your career starts on All My Children, you're screwed, because you're never going to work with a greater, the minute I started working on that show in 1989 as a 25-year-old, I'm immediately connected to Orson Welles and Citizen Kane, because Ruth Warwick, who was on the show at about 70 years old, was a young woman in Citizen Kane. Right. And when you love the idea of sort of like a Hollywood family tree, the fact that my tree immediately on my first job gets me into Citizen Kane, I'm like, that's incredible. I mean, I used to talk to Ruth about this. Like, tell me about Hollywood studio films in the 30s, 40s, and Orson Welles and Citizen Kane. And it was amazing. So, I mean, you're just, I'm sure Ken can speak to that. I mean, like, when you get to work with people that makes your tree go deeper into your own resume, I love it. The same way young kids may work with me.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, that's glowing praise about All My Children. Yeah.
All right, well, then I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this.
Go ahead.
Okay.
So I started on the show in 78, right? I'm still in college, but I'm doing background. I'm doing U5 work, doing stand-in work. Mm-hmm. Casting would use me to read, as you know, with the Julia Roberts.
Sure.
And I was, when I would do background, I would go down onto the floor if I wasn't in the scene, so I could, watch Ruth Warwick work and Louis Edmonds and James Mitchell. And
so you know exactly what he speaks of.
Incredible. Yes, she's the first Mrs. Citizen Kane.
Right.
Now, cut to 83. I've been on the show for not quite a year. I do this event with a whole bunch of other soapies down in Washington, D.C., and they're introducing Loving there, and there's Perry, because Perry went from being a U5 in a scene of mine to being the young male lead of this new show that ABC's doing. And he brings a couple of the other core members of Loving who are on the show that had started airing it, and one is this guy from L.A., Brian Cranston. Mm-hmm. And by the time this weekend-long event is over, Brian and I go back to New York, best pals. And one of the things we do is we decide we're going to, the establishing shot in Seinfeld of what looks like Jerry's apartment from the street looking up?
Yes.
I think that's where Brian's apartment was when he was on Loving. West 71st, between like Amsterdam. I'm pretty sure if that's not the building, his building was right next to it or whatever. So Brian and I came up with this thing where we would do play readings. Mm-hmm. Readings, I want to do this play. I want to do this play. And we would just invite pals, people we knew who were doing background work on the soaps or another contract player, and we would just cast among ourselves. Mm-hmm. They'd get the play down at Drama Bookshop, and we would go over and we would do reading the play. And then I'd get the bus back to Jersey. And Brian got fired. He got booted off Loving less than a year into his 3-year contract. Ooh. So he's going to move back to LA. So I go, well, look, my favorite play in the world is a play I read in college by S.N. Berman. It's called End of Summer. Mm-hmm. It's an incredible play that has been forgotten. I want to do this play. Let's have a reading of it. But it was written for a Broadway and Hollywood diva, and you need an old Hollywood movie star at the core of this wonderful play, End of Summer. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm going to ask Ruth Warwick. Now, I don't know if I've ever spoken to her. We'd done scenes together because Phoebe Tyler approved of Alfred Vanderpool's gentlemanly, roots and all that. Because Alfred had clueless with his own age, but was very good with, well, yes, Mrs. Wallingford.
But meanwhile, there's been no real interaction outside of, okay.
But I ask her, and she's familiar with the play.
Oh, wow.
And she says yes.
Wow.
And then, one night that next week, after we wrap, we're all waiting at Brian. Here comes Ruth Warwick. She comes up. She sits on the bed. I mean, it's all, floor, there's a little stool there. 3 of us are on the bed. And she reads this role. Brian read what you would consider the villain. I read what you'd consider the comic relief. It was It was one of the plays that made a star out of Van Heflin when Van Heflin did the original Broadway cast in 1936. Really fun role. This was fiery Irishman Dennis McCarthy, so I did it all the way you with my thinking. And it was a great experience. Cut to. Sometime during the fall, this past fall, after Clerks 3, I'm invited to participate in an All My Children reunion on Zoom. And of course, who's there but Susan Lucci? And after it's over, I said to my wife, Susan would be really great in End of Summer. So I send her an email and I give her this little pitch. And I tell her about the story with Brian and me doing it with Ruth. And she comes back with, Bill, Ruth was my mentor on All My Children.
Wow.
And by the way, Erica Kane's strongest relationship in All My Children is with her mother, Mona Kane. Who played Mona Kane? Frances Heflin, Van Heflin's sister.
That's sick.
Oh, my God.
That's sick.
So she goes, please send me the script.
Oh.
And I go, okay.
That's amazing.
And 2 days later, she goes, I have to do this play. When are we going to do it? I said, whenever we can. She said, what's your vision for it? And I said, Broadway. And she comes back with, that's exactly my vision. I'm not looking off Broadway. I want to get back. She goes, in 1999, when Bernadette Peters was a big hit in the revival of Annie Get Your Gun, she took her 2-week break during Christmas.
Okay.
Which is tough.
Yeah.
Because you got a lot of people getting gifted tickets for Christmas.
Of
and
course,
they want to see the star who won the Tony Award. So the producers went and got Susan. And Susan played that role for that 2-3 week over those holidays, and apparently did a really nice job. And she said to me, I've been looking to get back on Broadway since 1999, and I get sent scripts all the time, and I've never found one I've liked until now.
Wow.
I want to do this play on Broadway.
That's amazing.
So we had a reading back right after Thanksgiving in a Midtown rehearsal studio, and we had an invited audience, and I got some of my pals from Network and some of my pals from All the Way, so we surrounded her with some hardcore Broadway people.
Big time.
And we did this reading, and that's where we're at now. Which, her husband just passed away, unfortunately. She and Helmut married 53 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
But we're looking, we're bringing it out to producers and
nice.
Pitching
Bill,
it.
I am available, just so you know.
And if you have a ton of money, you can get your choice of role.
Oh.
Except the lead.
Is that all it takes?
Susan's got that.
Okay.
Hey, look, I'll be happy with seats within the first 5 rows. That's all I care.
I mean, guys, she's magic. It
Wow.
was just us in the room
Wow.
while she's doing the reading of this role. And it was just like, wow, she's magic.
That's great to hear. And it's funny because I was reading about how Susan was saying she actually, for the first time probably since the pandemic happened, had an update about Pine Valley and saying that, yes, this is still going. Yes, I'm involved in the project. I'm excited about it. She even said, it's like, yeah, the pandemic definitely set everything back. And, it looks like this thing will happen. The question, will it find enough of an audience? But then again, in television, from when you started in the 80s, where it's like in prime time, 20, 25, 30 million people. Nowadays, if you hit for 3 to 4 million, even 2 million, you've got a successful series because there's so many options out there.
There are primetime network TV shows that barely get 1 million. I was working as a writer's assistant. My last time I was living in LA, I was a writer's assistant on Star Trek Enterprise, which was the last of those for a while. And we were, I think, the lowest rated network primetime show out there. And we were getting under 1 million. All My Children consistently drew 5 million viewers every day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there are two things in LA, as you guys know. There's something you can sell and something that the audience will embrace.
Yeah.
There are things that the audience will break that don't get to airtime because I don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. Whereas you got to put together something that, like when they revived Dallas.
Yeah.
And now they've on CW revived Dynasty.
Yep. Yep.
But, without the people, somehow you're getting the people from there connected to this new story with all these new kids. The older audiences aren't going to watch, and the younger audience just see it as just another show.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they've got the people who I've read are involved with the show are very talented people. And you've got Ripa.
Yeah.
And Mark, their production is one of the main production companies involved, and they're very smart people about this. So I'm hoping they get it done, and I'm hoping I'm hoping they give me a call.
Yeah, absolutely. Give Bill Timoney a call. We like to see
After
Mr.
Susan.
Vanderpool. Yes.
After Susan.
After Susan,
There you
right.
go. Okay.
Priorities. Bill, you were working. What was life? Because you actually had some guest starring roles. You were working, and they just came out FBI, being on Billions. If I can get, let me start with photo 2, Ming, and this is from you being on FBI.
Sure. Jeremy Sisto,
right? The opposite. And the Billions episode you got, and matter of fact, give me, I can't see, this is where I probably should have had my glasses. Thank you for enlarging that. Photo 9. Thank you very much. There we go. And there you are in the bar scene having the conversation with Paul Giamatti.
With my pandemic long hair and my pandemic weight. Yes. that was the first thing I did out of our whatever year and a half, 2-year lockdown.
Right.
It was that gig. And it was like my first audition as well. So I really hadn't time to think about I should start losing the weight. So just put the big sweatshirt over me. But that would, and I'm sorry to deflate myself about this, but those weren't guest stars; those were co-stars.
Co-stars, excuse me. I apologize.
And the difference is the guest star gets their name in the opening credits.
Yeah.
And the co-star gets their name in the closing credits.
Closing credits, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there is a thing called juicy co-stars, which is what the casting people tell the agents. Mm-hmm. It's not official.
Right.
So like FBI was just a one-day gig. It's the one scene.
Right.
I showed up that morning. I wrapped by like 2 o'clock, and I was on the subway back to the city from Queens to get the ferry back home. But Billions was several days.
Right.
They put me up someplace. It's better money. You know, but you're going to get your name at the end of the credits.
Now with Billions, you shot that when? Do you remember?
Yeah. It aired early this year, right?
Right, it did.
January.
That was episode 1, yeah.
So we shot it May of last year.
Okay.
So we shot it just about this time last year.
Okay, so you're in the heart of the pandemic at this point, and they're shooting. What is the vibe like with everybody as actors trying to work, trying to stay sane, and basically do your craft while protocols have changed and everything is probably not feeling the same as it did pre-pandemic, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
There are, what's the word they use when a compliance officer?
Yes.
Yeah. There's a compliance officer on the set, and they'll call you on it, and good for them. I mean,
usually several too, and they kind of troll around the sets, making sure that everybody who's there is following the protocol.
Right.
Put your mask back on, Bill.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
As opposed to hey, no, we all know the stakes of getting a production shut down.
Yeah.
And we don't want that to happen again. Mm-hmm. So, and again, going back just to the general overview of it, I come from a very simple place of better safe than sorry. I understand that there's extraordinary sacrifices people have made in shutting down. Businesses have been lost, and kids' educations have lost a year, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to all I'm being asked to do is, I'm suddenly aware that we're talking about wearing a mask, and none of us are wearing a mask. We're in a controlled environment. We're not here. We're all being patched in. This is
see that thing in the background? Avatar. It's not real.
Bob is a CGI effect.
I've always been that.
His wife will tell you that going back years. Yeah. Bob has been a special effect. Yeah.
But to take it one step further, as a working actor during this time, when you're kind of going, I'm trying to go from role to role,
right,
make your living,
right,
and you weren't the only one in this boat. There were so many hundreds of thousands of actors who were in this same boat for the last 2 years trying to do this. How difficult or how stressful is that as an actor to kind of go, okay, there's not as many productions, there's not as many acting jobs during this time. How do you stay sane, for lack of a better term?
Frankly, it's like how it always is with an actor.
Oh, so nothing. Wow. Okay.
We got 165,000 members of SAG-AFTRA, Screen Actors Guild, and on any given weekday, we have a unemployment rate of 97%. Yeah.
See, I didn't realize that. I did not realize it was that high.
In some ways, the pandemic was better for actors because since there were less jobs, there were fewer refusals.
You weren't getting shut down as much.
Turned down more as often.
Yeah. So I mean, there is that thing. It's look, another mistake. My 20s, my 30s, when my career regressed after Alfred went away, I did the things that actors in New York did. I waited on tables. I bartended. I did graveyard shift. I did third shift at the world's largest law firm.
Oh, geez.
Because from midnight to 8 a.m., Skadden Arps was as busy as
Right.
as people working for the Ukrainian presidents. Paul. Oh, why did I go blank on Paul's name? Paul. Come on, Trump hired him after Ukraine.
Manafort?
Paul Manafort.
Manafort. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Viktor Yanukovych, a Putin pawn, who was the president of Ukraine in 2012, hired Paul Manafort as his advisor.
Okay.
And Paul Manafort did two pieces of advice with Yanukovych that helped quite well for him, actually. Three. One was he said, look, nobody wants our party anymore. We're going to be voted out. And he said, change the party's name. So they just changed the party's name. Yeah, and it was like, now it was called Puppies and Kittens or something. Number two was when Yulia Tymoshenko, the challenger, who was a political reformist, was running against him, Manafort said to him, just in all your speeches, just say how you're going to lock her up. And once he won the election, which was contested, but once he stayed in office, he threw her in prison.
Whoa.
Now, as this is sounding familiar, it's because, after they finally overthrew Yanukovych and he fled back to Putin, Manafort came back to the U.S.,
right,
which is when that happened. And the first thing he did when he was hired was he had the GOP remove from the plank support of Ukraine.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing was when there was the great riot in the square, it wasn't a riot, it was a demonstration during the Orange Revolution, and Tymoshenko's people were trying to bring democratic reform to what Yanukovych was doing, which was sucking the country dry. Manafort said, shoot him. And he said, well, I'll have the army fire over their heads. He said, no, shoot him.
Whoa.
And you can look it up. How many people were killed? It's there, Kent State. Only how many people died at Kent State? Three? Four? Okay, I think it was close to 100 people were killed. And in fact, there's an exchange which became public. Manafort's daughters, his older daughter in college and his younger daughter, in a text or email exchange, the younger daughter was defending their father, and the older daughter said, don't you realize our father has blood on his hands for what happened? Yeah, it's very intense stuff. I was working as a TV news producer at the time for a show, a live TV news program, morning show, that was we did it here in New Jersey, but our bosses were in Istanbul. It was so it came out of Turkey, and they had a focus with me. They said, we want you to do more international news. So I said to my anchors, the only time you're going to have to say the words Paris Hilton is if you're talking about a summit in France. So there was none of that entertainment tonight stuff.
Right.
But as a result, I got very hip to what was happening in Ukraine.
Now, I was about to say, now we know. I mean, never knew that. That's wild.
Yeah. And that's why the whole Manafort connection was such a big deal, because Trump was following the playbook that Manafort had created for Yanukovych.
Wild stuff. This is a tangent we probably never expected today, which is wild.
Bill has brought the comedy level way down.
Oh, don't worry about that. I can bring that back. Bill Timoney here on the A-Game. I love it.
Right. So one night after all my children, I had these two chicks in my dressing room, right? And then, door knock. Who is it? It's their mother. Oh, they have to do their homework. Right? How's that? Better? You like that?
There we go.
Oh, actually, I do have to say one thing before we get to random shots. Your anniversary came up recently. 20 years married?
Yes.
20?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Fantastic.
Photo number 6, please. I'd like to give Georgetta a little bit of a plug here.
Oh, with the Hollywood sign in the background.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's
what a wonderful woman she is.
Yeah, she's great.
Yep.
And
she's the best.
Take it one step further. You actually did a little work with her. She was sort of the star voice of a Netflix film for a cartoon.
Yeah, we did. Well, she's doing a lot of voice work.
Yeah.
And in fact, this week we're both doing voices on a Ukrainian documentary.
That's funny. How it all ties.
Yeah, we just booked it yesterday. Different narrators. It's you're not doing the voices of the character, but you're doing the translation.
Okay.
So if somebody's speaking, you're not using your voice acting to pretend to be the character.
Right.
You're just doing a translation. Guess what role I'm getting to do?
Zelensky.
Better. Putin.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, but we did a movie of feature length animated film that for a while was like very high rated on.
Yeah, it was.
Called The Secret Magic Control Agency.
As a matter of fact, Ming, I think I have that as photo number 4. There it is.
Yeah. And now the gal with the blue hair and the glasses, she is agent stepmother. So she's there's a lot of James Bondian parody stuff to it.
Right.
And she's the Judi Dench of it. And she's hilarious in it. And it's the thing that you want to do, and Bob will tell you this.
Yeah.
There are two kinds of voice acting when you're not voiceover, not narration and not commercials, but voice acting.
Right.
When you're dubbing, when you're putting square peg round hole,
Right.
They've already done it, and now you're going to have to fit it. And Bob and I have done a ton of that stuff.
I know you both have done Pokemon episodes.
But that's right. It's already there.
Yeah.
But what you really want is prelay, in which they put the script down in front of you and a microphone down in front of you, and you record it. And you might do it by yourself, which is how you always dub.
Right.
Or you might do it at a table with the other actors. And you might even be able to improvise and have some fun with it. And they record it, and they watch you, and they take pictures of you, and they sketch you. And if you change something that they like more, they incorporate that.
Yep. Oh, that's cool. I like the concept.
And then
That's
a year or two later, it comes out. And that's what Secret Magic Control Agency was. It was a
Is that
a
what they're
prelay.
calling now? Prelay? Because
It's
I was
called
heard it
prelay.
as scratch tracks and whatnot.
Well, the thing with scratch tracks is that it may not be the end result.
Okay.
It's a temporary thing. Like
Right.
I did a very cool scratch track for a movie called Everybody's Hero, which was about a kid who wants to play baseball for the Yankees. And the way he's going to play it is he's got a magic bat and a magic ball.
Yes, I remember this.
And a lot of the Yankees voice themselves.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
It was a very, very, very odd project because two things. A-Rod was all over it, and Derek refused to be part of it.
Oh,
Wow.
And the other thing was, you want to make it about baseball, and what are you telling the kids? It's about having a magic bat or a magic ball. And, like Danny DeVito was the voice of the ball, and Whoopi Goldberg was the voice of the bat. It was some really, but they didn't know who the villain would be.
okay.
So I voiced the villain, which is he was like the club owner of another team and da-da-da-da-da. And they were going to have David Hyde Pierce do it, but they had me do the scratch first, so they didn't have to wait for David in order to start drawing.
Right.
Well, it ends up coming out, not with David, but with Robin Williams. Oh, wow. But you don't know that, do you?
No.
And here's why. The whole project had something to do with a fundraiser for Christopher Reeve Foundation. His wife was very involved with the production.
Right.
Christopher Reeve and Robin Williams
From Juilliard.
were roommates at Juilliard
there you
together. So Robin wanted to, and I think Christopher Reeve had just passed. So he wanted to be part of it. But he wouldn't let his name be part of it. Or maybe his agents wouldn't let his name. So Robin Williams, it's like an unbilled cameo. He's the villain and everybody's hero.
Wow.
And, and he was laying on tracks, listening to what I did, and him saying, I don't want to do what he did. Let me do something better. But didn't put his name on it.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Good stuff. Yeah. And you can still find that cartoon, by the way, on Netflix. So if you haven't checked it out, worth your time.
Everybody's Hero? Yeah. And if you're a completist for Robin Williams, you probably didn't know that that's his work, so check him out.
Definitely. This is the A Game. This is Bill Timoney. That is my good friend Bob Senkewicz. We're up to random shots, and
Now for the setup.
Yes, because normally I would have gone the deep dive into social media, but I did that last time, and I figured I need to pull out the big gun. Bob, you know Bill pretty well. He's doing random shots.
I actually have your random shots today. So I was here as a setup, but I was kind of hanging. I actually wanted to show up, but here you are. You ready? I have some good ones. I have some funky ones.
Okay.
I'm going to start with one that's a really good one.
Some good ones, some bad ones, some fun ones, some Bob ones.
Yes.
Some Bob. Well,
Here's the best one. The first one to start with. Ready?
I feel safer closer.
You should. Voiceover or on camera?
Yes.
That was a this or that.
But that A gig is a gig.
Okay.
You know?
I should have known you'd answer it that way.
Right.
Hey, don't forget, Pokemon's provided him with some money and pretty good money over the years.
The tall blonde in the bikini or the short redhead in the bikini?
Yes.
Okay.
We're all 15 deep down.
Okay.
Yeah, I love to work. You know that. You look.
I know that.
What if I asked you that question? Yeah.
Right now,
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the voiceover,
Good.
but I love on camera.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's
And you're
I'm-
great on stage. And
Well, thank you.
You've seen him on stage?
I
right?
have indeed.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's it. And I'll throw the love back as well. Because we've had some very good times on stage.
Welcome to the Love Fest.
Yes.
My wife, Georgette, thinks I am fantastic on stage. She's only this about me on camera.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. She's like, you're good on camera, but you're really good on stage. So,
It's funny you say that because my wife, she doesn't think I'm good anywhere.
Wow.
The first off-Broadway show I did, she showed up and came back afterwards and critiqued the scenery.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did a play up in Penobscot Theatre Company in Bangor, Maine, where I played the presidential candidate that Spencer Tracy played in the movie State of the Union. And Georgette and my mom and my brother, they all made the trip. And back at the hotel room after the performance, my wife looked at me. She said, "What are you doing up there? What are you doing up there?" So yeah, I mean, I can count
There
on
you go.
I can count on
There
her
you
to be
go.
honest.
The keys to a good marriage, great critiquing.
All right, number two.
Number two.
I know you and I, for many talks we had, you are a large baseball fan.
Oh yeah.
You ready? The worst trade for the New York Mets was when they was it either when they traded Nolan Ryan to the California Angels
For Jim Fregosi.
or when they traded Tom Seaver to the Reds?
For Pat Zachary and a bag of balls.
Well, here you
I
go.
know, Dave Henderson.
Hang on.
Yeah, that's true.
The trade to the Angels was Nolan Ryan, Don Rose, Leroy Stanton, and Frank Estrada for Jim Fregosi.
It's a lot.
The trade for Seaver was for Pat
Zachary, Doug Flynn,
Steve Henderson, and Dan Norman.
Dan Norman.
So which was the
Yeah.
worst trade?
Yeah, I just remember how. I mean, Seaver's the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
So look at Kuzman's numbers. I don't think he gets enough credit for being.
He doesn't. He does
He
not.
was just within the last year finally getting some props by the Mets organization. Yeah.
But that was so devastating. Not because Ryan wasn't Ryan. Remember
That's
that.
correct.
That's
He
true.
was not.
That's very
He had
true.
no control.
Starting
Even
lineup.
worse then.
Starting five at the '69 World Series was Seaver, Kuzman, Gary Gentry, Jim McAndrew, and Nolan Ryan.
Right.
So, I mean, there wasn't that just yet.
Mm-hmm.
And Fregosi was the franchise in California.
Yes, he was.
He was the Angels.
Yep.
So, the problem of not having a shortstop who could hit a lick, that was a big deal. And there was a lot of anticipation that, now the team's going to be helped by having Fregosi.
Mm-hmm.
And he was such a disaster.
But he didn't play shortstop for the Mets. He played third
played
base.
third base. Yeah, they moved him over third.
Because Bud Harrelson was still there.
And they got rid of Wayne Garrett, I guess, for that.
Yeah.
Did.
Yeah.
And Ed Charles had just retired.
So good at Charles.
So, which one?
Oh, wow. I got as much fun as that just was. It's got to be trading away Seaver.
Yeah,
Thank you.
has
Thank
to.
you, because Seaver's my guy.
Yeah.
Seaver's always my guy. All right, ready?
Yeah.
What's your favorite Hammer horror film?
You called. You
I
were
got
going to
you.
get him on one.
Yep.
You
Yep.
did.
No, I said God help us because I was rewatching it just now. It has to be not only Hammer's highest grossing horror film, and I make that specific because 1 Million Years BC is not considered a horror film,
Right.
And Rocco Welch and Ray Harryhausen and that is their highest grossing film of all time.
Okay.
But the highest grossing horror film is what I also consider, and as a kid I was a very, very serious Catholic kid, from an Irish Catholic tradition.
Right.
And yes, The Exorcist is the greatest Catholic film ever made. But yet, when you watched vampire films, the guy, it was there's some kind of ubiquitous thing, and that wasn't a Catholic priest collar. Is that a Protestant collar? I could never quite get the Catholicity I was looking for out of those films. And luckily, it's all over. Dracula Has Risen from the Grave.
There you go.
The greatest Hammer horror film ever made. And that takes a lot of me because Peter Cushing was my hero, and he's not in that film. Christopher Lee's in that film.
Well, that actually leads me. What a wonderful segue into my next question.
Setting him up to
Are you
knock
ready
it
for it?
down. There you go.
Christopher Lee or Peter Cushing?
Cushing. Now, that wasn't a Who Would You Rather, was it? No, okay.
Well, hey, don't ask, don't tell.
By the way, I met Peter Cushing.
What was that like?
Really?
It's a notorious moment in that Hammer had a one-day convention in, I'm going to say, 1975.
Wow.
And me and my buddy Mark Roger and another guy from our school talked one of our teachers into driving us into Manhattan. And it was right there in Midtown. I remember a very scary walk from Port Authority where we parked.
In 75? Yes.
And I didn't have any money, but I got enough money because there was a book, The Hammer House of Horror, that when I flipped it open, I went, half nude. Nude. I'm going to buy this. And there was a page, and it was Peter Cushing, producer Michael Carreras, and Vampire Lovers Ingrid Pitt.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
And I met all three of them, and I got Peter Cushing's autograph on the book I'd spent too much money for. And someone asked him a trivia question. Mm-hmm. And, 16-and-a-half-year-old me leaned forward because it was my turn.
Yeah.
Mr. Cushing, can I help you? Because I know his career better than everybody's. Grandson says I know his career better. I corrected his memoir.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. He credited his dad with being one of the writers on a horror picture called The Beast with Five Fingers. And he sent me, galleys to proof. And I went, your father was not one of the writers on The Beast with Five Fingers, which was a Peter Lorre film. Your father was one of the writers on The Crawling Hand, which starred Peter Brack and Alan Hale Jr.
Oh, my God, The Crawling Hand.
You remember The Crawling Hand?
Yes, I do.
And what song was introduced in The Crawling Hand?
No. I just remember the movie. I don't remember that.
Oh, mama, papa, oh, mama,
Really?
papa, oh, mama.
I did not know that.
The bird,
Wow.
when the guy's attacking the guy sweeping up in the soda jerk pop, whatever that place is, and he gets him up against the jukebox.
Yeah.
And what comes on is the Rivingtons' Papa Umama, Papa
Wow.
Umama, which then got picked up and adapted into the rock song "The Bird's the Word" with Surfer Bird.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, Bird,
Yes.
Bird,
And what band was Surfer Bird? That wasn't Rivingtons. But
You're the DJ.
I know, and I'm blanking on
But
this
you
one,
can
man.
make that argument that the original version of that is introduced in The Crawling Hand, co-written by Joe Cranston.
Oh, interesting.
But back to Peter Cushing,
yes.
because he's trying to figure out the name of a film he did, and this is my moment. Not only am I meeting Peter Cushing, I can help him with my knowledge of his film trivia. Yes, dear boy. I'm trying to remember the title of the episode I guest starred on for Space 1999.
Oh, my gosh.
A show I hated and never watched. I love gothic horror. I hate futuristic sci-fi.
Oh, my God.
And I went cold. And you could argue that's probably why I've retained every fact I've known since. So if the ghost of Peter Cushing comes up to me again, this time I'll have the answer.
Wow.
And many years later, I made a film with Ingrid Pitt. It was the last film she ever made. And it was a very unfortunate experience. But it was, God love her. She did a lot of work and made a lot of young men happy in her time. Vampire Lovers. Oh, yeah.
All right. Are you ready to have your cojones busted?
That's starting now?
Yeah.
More random shots. Bob Senkewicz taking over.
We know, that you had recently appeared in an episode of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel,
Yes.
which personally I love the show, and my wife and I, knowing you were in it, were waiting and looking for you,
Right.
and got a great laugh when we saw you.
Oh, good.
And as you and I have spoken before, we know that I recently did an episode in the M. Night Shyamalan show on Apple Plus called Servant.
Yeah.
So here's the question for you. Who spoke more words in their episode, you or me?
You did.
Technically,
I
correct.
I spoke 4 words.
So did I.
Yeah, but
You said, good evening, Mr. Bruce.
Right, and I used the abbreviation. I said MR. I didn't even say Mr. I said Mr.
Yeah, right. And I said, the hell's your problem? So technically, mine is a contraction, so it's 5 words,
Right.
but it's
You're
only
right.
4.
You're right. That was one of those jobs where you may know that our union, Screen Actors Guild, had it set up for decades. If you make X amount over X number of years, that when you reach this age, this is what you'll get in health benefits.
Right.
And I'm just reaching that age. And then 2 summers ago, in the midst of the pandemic, it was like I had run a marathon, and I'm running up to the tape, and suddenly they moved the tape back.
Right.
another
That's
10
how to feel with the pandemic coming in, of course.
It was unconscionable, and their attempt to say well, it was because of the pandemic, is completely incorrect because this problem had been coming for decades and the leadership had been kicking the can down the road.
And that's something me on the outside does not know that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
The union issue regarding health benefits has been a contentious issue for many, many years.
Many.
I mean, I've been fortunate. I haven't had to worry about it because I had other job where I got my benefits. But I'm aware of what's going on.
And my thing is, I've been getting it every year for 30 years.
Which says a lot because you've managed to maintain the work, and enough work to do it.
Yeah. And if I wasn't getting principal work, I would do U5 work.
Right.
Or I would, this Clerks 3 thing. I did a day as a background player.
Right.
Because I got to walk to work. I lived 3 blocks from the damn place.
Yep.
And when Brian saw me on the set, he had the casting people reach out to me the next day and say, "We need another stand-in. We need a stand-in for him. Would you be second team stand-in?" And stand-in work qualifies under Screen Actors Guild.
Right.
So I was able to. But that Mrs. Maisel thing, my qualifying period ended on June 30th. Wow. And after Billions, my Juicy co-star, I went, oh, I might be able to make that number.
Right.
And I started doing whatever I could to get whatever kind of work to get closer and closer and closer and close. And then I booked, in the middle of June, I booked that Mrs. Maisel. And I filmed it on June 26th. And my expiration was June 30th. And I filmed that thing, and that put me like $350 over the finish line.
Amen.
Except,
What?
you know it's coming.
Yeah.
My paycheck was dated July 1st.
Yep.
Oh, no.
Yep.
So my union South plan tried to say, no, you did that work in July. And I said, where do you get a paycheck the same day you do? I mean, it was a 6-week battle before they finally
They did relent.
gave me
Good.
somebody really wonderful within that whole probably been fired since. But she went to bat for me and said, no, this is he qualified, he made it. So I have another year of my health insurance.
Good. Nice.
All right, here's your last one.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
And you may have already answered this, but I'm gonna ask it anyway because when the first show that we did, you needed a ride.
Right.
To the rehearsals because you had car issues at that time, and I had a lot of fun. And during that ride, you asked me a question once. Said, if you had one show you could do, what would it be? And what you wound up doing was you got me a copy of that script and autographed it and gave it to me, and that was Stalag 17.
Right.
Now,
It was either that or Funny Girl.
Now, my question to you is, if you had one play and one role, what would it be?
Boy, I'd love to do Howard Beale and Network, especially after Brian. But I have 2 plans in the near future. I would love to do Mass Appeal to play the older priest, the part Jack Lemmon did in the movies.
Yes.
But what I really want to do is, I did a reading in Asbury Park 2 Halloweens ago of the one-person play that Connor McPherson wrote, St. Nicholas, which is about a theater critic encountering a family of vampires. It is a great piece of theatrical entertainment. It's just the one guy telling the story.
Right.
So I would, of those 3 I just said, I think I'd have to pick doing St. Nicholas.
Nice.
Cool. Very cool.
Which brings me to this, since I know we're sort of running out of time.
Yeah, we're going to probably, I knew we were going to go a little long here because I had 2 more things to do, but you got to bring
I still want to hear that other story.
No, I know, but it's funny because you did bring up Clerks 3. I was going to bring that up again, but bring that up.
Number one is I'm going to be spending the month of September in Cape May at Cape May Stage. There's Cape May Stage is a wonderful theater company down there.
Oh, cool.
And I'm doing the new play, The Lifespan of a Fact.
Oh.
I'm doing the part that Bobby Cannavale did on Broadway a couple
Nice.
years ago.
Oh, very nice.
That'll be it. But many of you know I am a columnist for Videoscope magazine.
Oh, very cool.
Which is a magazine I've been reading forever. And I write a column called Seen But Not Heard, Adventures in Voice Acting, in which I use some aspect of my career to then explore a larger issue in the entire field. And in this issue, I talk about how I did the voice in Mission to Mars of the spacecraft computer.
Yes.
Right.
And Brian De Palma's only direction to me was, don't be Hal. which then brings me into how did Stanley Kubrick find Hal? Because how he started his concept of that voice of the computer in 2001 is not how it ended up.
Right.
So this is a copy for you.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Look at that.
On newsstands now.
Very cool. If they can't find it on a newsstand, can they find it online?
Video Mag or Videoscopemag.com, I think. Videoscopemag.com.
How do you qualify for this? You really don't know very much about theater and film.
Oh, no. He knows nothing, really.
I slept with... I know. I wanted the job, so I didn't sleep with...
There you go.
So we're not going to get Jimmy Buffett, are we?
We're going.
No,
I'll find a way.
that's a story I want to hear about.
There's 2 things. Since you mentioned Clerks 3, I found this photo, and this shows the power of Clerks, even though you got a small appearance in it. Photo number 5. You bumped into a couple. This is amazing. You bump into this couple who are from where, by the way?
It's like 2 weeks ago. No, when it was 420.
Right.
I'm going to buy a lottery ticket at the Quick Stop.
So you're in Leonardo, okay.
I live 3 blocks away.
Okay.
And there are these 2 people taking pictures of themselves in front of that sign. So I explained to them why there are dates at the bottom of the sign, why it's closed, because that's when Clerks 3 was filming.
Right.
They want to know if I was involved with it. I tell them what I did.
Yeah.
I started asking them, they're from Mallorca.
That's
Spain.
crazy.
They'd flown in the day before, New York City hotel, got up in the morning, rented the car, drove down. They were doing this. Then they were going to this secret stash
Yes.
right up the street from here.
In Red Bank, yes.
And then they were going to go to every place that featured in the first film.
Oh, I wonder if they ever made it to the Crazy Clown.
Where is the Crazy Clown?
It's on 35.
We call him Boozy the Clown.
Do you?
Yeah,
Boozy.
Every time we drive by, we go, it's Boozy the Clown. Smell my finger. Because he's got a little red, red tip on his finger.
There are some people call it the Haunted Clown or the...
I've heard the Haunted Clown. I've heard that, definitely.
He's the drunken clown. He's right by the liquor store.
Yes,
So they probably did, because that's what, and then they were flying back to their home in Mallorca the next morning.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's what they. So those are fans.
And that's where you say, "Hey, welcome to the View Askew family, sir."
Wow. Wow.
I had fun working on that. I mean,
you
both have a background work in Clerks 3. I mean, that had to be just knowing that it was wrapping up the franchise. But I mean, for both of you, I guess it was the feeling of, hey, it's work. It's a Kevin Smith production. It's going to get a lot of push when it comes out. So. It at least it puts you in that family now. It's like you're not Jersey unless 2 things now. You've been in a Kevin Smith movie, you've been in a Law and Order episode.
True. True.
That's pretty much it.
The thing with Kevin, I coach a lot with younger actors.
Right.
And I tell them to spend their life with their 2 eyes. Your 2 eyes, insight and inspiration. Your life is a journey where you're looking for insight. How do I do that? How do I figure that out? How do I do, where's the knowledge so you can expand your craft? And inspiration is, how do I keep going when I don't want to keep going?
Yeah.
And I thought when Brian's people said, would you do these 3 weeks as his stand-in? Yeah. I thought, well, I'm just going to be a fly on the wall while Kevin is doing his thing. And it was extraordinarily insightful. And it was amazingly inspirational.
Watching him direct. He was wonderful.
Fantastic. Learned so much. And I said something to Brian like the last day or 2. I looked at Brian and I went, the market does not know what's coming. And Brian just kind of smiled and went, they think we're making a comedy. It's real. I mean, at one point in the last week, Kevin showed us about 10 minutes of footage he'd already edited together. And that stuff was fantastic.
That's great to hear.
So I'm very optimistic that this thing is going to be a mind blower.
As somebody who has gotten to know a lot of that cast, I'm so happy for everybody. I really am.
I love when I was there, watching and listening to Kevin direct, and the way he interacted with the actors in scenes and trying to get them to work with them to get the shots he was looking for. I was floored. I'm sitting there going, I would hope in my life to work with a director like that, because he's going to get so much more out of you from what you're bringing, and it's just phenomenal.
And you want to, as opposed to trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And next time you see me, if we can do that, is I'll tell you how Kevin is very much like Martin Scorsese, because my day with him on The Irishman was just as insightful and inspirational.
Well, there you go. There's a 3rd episode with you coming at some point.
So Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah, to wrap this whole thing up, there is a story from his AMC days with Jimmy Buffett we didn't get to the last time. I'm dying to hear this.
I was a fan of Buffett's music when I started college. Loved what he did. Yeah. Probably because I first heard Come Monday.
Oh, wow.
And then,
good song.
And then, I don't know how I did it, but I heard He Went to Paris, which is the most devastating song ever written in the English.
Oh, wow.
That was
choices.
Good that was
Oh,
it.
yeah.
So now I'm at Fairfield University, and of course, I'm all about the movies. And there's a movie that came out, and the soundtrack is there, and I was doing a little DJing at the local campus, at the campus station, and it's a movie. Now, if it is a movie, I must know about it.
Yes.
And it's Rancho Deluxe, and who's in it playing himself and playing a song is Jimmy Buffett. And it's Livingston Saturday Night, which is a great up-tempo song.
Phenomenal song.
Love that song.
Yeah.
And then this other movie comes out, and it's called FM.
Oh, come on!
So we check that out, and although everybody gets the Sealy Dance song, the title track,
no static at all, man.
But who else is in the movie? It's Jimmy Buffett, and he's playing Livingston Saturday Night.
Yep.
Now, when I first started driving a date down the Garden State Parkway to see concerts at Homedale, Buffett was my thing. I went into the was it Palladium on 14th Street? Was that called the Palladium? What was the big hall on 14th Street?
Oh God.
Not the Palladium? Well, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I even took her there. And every time Buffett performed, he would do God's Own Drunk. And in the middle of it, in trying to describe what love was, when the moonshiner and the bear saw each other, it was like love. It was like love. It was like, he'd go, like Cliff and Nina and all my children. Now, of course, I'm doing background work on that show by then, so I know Cliff and Nina. It's so psyched. Jimmy Buffett knows the show that I work on. And then I get, then Greg and Jenny starts, and I'm working in there, still background. And he goes, one night, it was like Greg and Jenny on All My Children. So I'm like, Buffett's really connected to All My Children. I get cast as Alfred. One day I'm in the actor's lounge, and of course, at airtime is the show that's airing that day, because we were about 8 or 9 days ahead. There is All My Children watching. And, the other thing about Buffett is, do you know, The Weather Is Here, Wish You Were Beautiful?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? One of the last lines in that song is Billy Clyde wasn't insane. Well, Billy Clyde Tuggle was the pimp in Pine Valley or in Center City on All My Children, whose dream was to make enough money off his hookers so he could buy an island in the Caribbean. So that's the connection. And anybody who hears that song goes, what is that?
Yeah,
Unless you're connected to All My Children.
Yep.
So I'm watching the show, and it opens on a jukebox. No, it doesn't play Bird the Word, but it plays Margaritaville.
Nice.
And it pulls back, and the guy who just put the coin in is Jimmy Buffett. And one of Billy Clyde's hookers walks up to him, asks his name, and says, "How about you buy me a drink?" He goes, "Me buy you a drink? Listen, darling, I just put my last 2 bits in this machine, so why don't you buy me a drink?" And she goes, "Yeah, why don't you hold your breath?" And she walks away, and the camera follows her, and now she has a scene with Billy Clyde or somebody. Yeah. But I'm still like, Jimmy Buffett. Producers, was Jimmy Buffett
just
in this
here?
building? Yeah, about 9 days ago, he was, I was like, wow. Because I severe hero worship on his work. So next summer, he's playing Garden State Arts Center. And I'm not someone who, is very forward about these things.
Right.
But I do this. I write a letter to the management of the Garden State Arts Center.
Ooh.
And I explain my connection to Mr. Buffett. And is there a possibility, I'm going to come see this show on such and such. I brought my kid's sister. Possibility to go backstage and say hello. And they're all over me. "Oh, you bought tickets already? Oh, we would have given you tickets."
Wow.
So that's the thing. I never did those things.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
My sister and I, she's junior high school. We love the show. We go backstage. I have this blue satin, like Asbury Jukes type jacket, which was the All My Children softball team jacket.
Oh, nice.
Because I was the big guy on the All My Children softball team. Me and the guy who was the makeup artist, Scott Hirsch, we ran that team. And I loved that softball jacket that we gave everybody who would play on our team, until the day I went down to Nashville to visit my family. They had moved down there, and my kid brother and I went to a bar outside of Murfreesboro, and I wore that jacket, which of course was a mistake. I looked like a dick. Every single girl is looking at me, and I'm not in character. I'm not Alfred Glasses or whatever, but I'm wearing that thing that they could figure out. And All My Children is the hot show, and Greg and Jenny storyline. That's the guy. And every one of those girls in that packed Thanksgiving weekend bar is accompanied by a guy from the South. I walked into the men's room at one point, and there were 3 urinals, and I took the middle one.
Oh, boy.
And within seconds, there were 2 good old boys, Perry Stevens, Jeff Goldblum height, on either side of me, and they decided to have a conversation over me. And what was their conversation? You know what? What? "I hate blank blank soap operas." "Yeah, I hate blank blank soap operas too." You know what? Zip out. Never wore the jacket again. And that summer, I brought it with me down to Garden State Arts Center, and I'm going to present it to Jimmy after the show. And I'm like, what am I going to say to him? We're standing there waiting at the door, and Mr. Buffett, what I call him. I had this like Alfred Vanderpool type insecurity. And they open the door, and they bring Maureen and I in, and there he is with it was, I think his marriage was sort of busting up, and he was playing a lot of rock and stuff. He had Timothy B. Schmidt on playing bass. He had some really cool people.
Yeah.
And we walk in the door, and he's way down there with these huge garbage cans with liner and ice and this beer I'd never seen, Corona.
Ah.
And he looks up and he goes, "Whoa, Alfred Vanderpool, I've been dying to meet you." I turn to my sister and I go, "We're going to be okay." And then for a couple of years there, when I was still on the show, I mean, this is deep, deep past, he had a great guy working with him named Hobbit. And like every summer, Hobbit would reach out to me and he'd have some tickets for us.
Nice.
And usually way out at Jones Beach. And the last time I saw Jimmy was that last show of the tour that summer was at Jones Beach. So we did that thing, there's that passageway underneath the water and you're up on this, and again, big greeting. We had a great chat, but we were welcome, me and my kid brother this time. I guess I always took family. We were hanging out and I met his wife, Jane. I think they were separated at the time. And, grabbed Corona. We're sitting on the stage. Jimmy's kind of making the rounds and all that. And Jane wanted to talk to me about being on soap operas because she wanted to be an actress. She was taking some classes and she was thinking about trying to get on a soap opera. So we were talking and we were talking and we were really talking. And I realized after a while that we were talking very close. Now, the topic was acting and soaps, but we're having this this sort of intimate space.
Yes.
When suddenly I looked up and there was Jimmy behind his wife. And I got awkward and I said, "Oh, Jimmy, I'm talking to your wife about acting." And he went, "Yeah," which was, that doesn't believe that the topic.
Exactly.
And I was a little uncomfortable, and he just kind of walked past, and then somebody called Jane or whatever, and she looked someplace else, and then suddenly Jimmy was here in my ear, and he goes, "Billy, believe me, you don't want any piece of that." And it wasn't some guy warning me not to mess with his woman.
Yeah.
It was like a buddy of mine at the fraternity going, "I was just up in the attic with her. Trust me, it's not worth it."
Oh, my God.
And that is the last communication I've ever had with Jimmy. Oh. But I love his music.
A1A, baby.
That was worth it. That was so worth it.
We all went to Paris.
Yeah, we all went to Paris.
Very nice.
I thank you, sir, for giving me of your time.
Oh, so pleased to get a chance to share this stuff with you guys. Thanks so much.
I appreciate
Great to see you. I'm glad you. What a nice surprise.
You're quite welcome. I'm happy to join and been too long since you and I have seen each other. I mean, we've talked on the phone a couple of times and emails, but this is always better this way.
And look for Bob Senkewicz upcoming episode of Servant.
Yes,
very soon. And give the streaming service so people know.
It's an Apple.
Okay,
it's on Apple TV. It's the M. Night Shyamalan show, Servant. I'm in season 4, episode 1.
Look for the magazine Video Scope because Bill has a column in here, and look for their website if you cannot find the magazine. Worth checking out, and I thank you for the magazine.
And come down to Cape May Stage this coming September to see. What's the name of my show? Oh, the Lifespan of a Fact. This September at Cape May Stage.
Bob, I think we have a road trip coming.
Yes.
I might even have a place for us to stay.
Hey.
I have family down there.
And check this out. The female lead is played by Marlena Lustig, who she and her husband run Cape May Stage. In 1971, she played the female lead in a drive-in picture called My Brother Has Bad Dreams. So if you're a connoisseur of the type of exploitation fare that's written about in Videoscope, come on down to see me and the star of My Brother Has Bad Dreams. Also, it was retitled as Scream Bloody Murder. Brother Has Bad Dreams is better.
Okay. Thank you as always, my friend.
Thank you, man.
Absolutely. That's a wrap for this week. I'm off next week because I got to spend time with the family for Mother's Day, but I'll be back the week after that. And be following me on Facebook. And please like my YouTube channel and be a part of this mess, won't you? Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.